You can be a football or soccer player, high performing, really, really good. But if you don't know how to work together as a team, you lose. They still need to manage the mechanics of how do we work together. And that's, I think, what Ed and I addressed. I think we did pretty well.
At this level, we can teach people to handle their inboxes. At this level, we can decide which inboxes we need to look at. And so instead of having people become more efficient here, which is great, they need to do that. But up here, we can reduce the amount of places they need to look. Some teams that we've worked with have reduced the number of places to look by 75%. That's a lot less places to look before you get to work in the day.
David Allen, Ed Lamont, it is truly an honor to have you here in the Taste Podcast. I've been a fan of yours, David, for about 20 years, over 20 years. And it started going all the way back to the GTD roadmap with my dad in Dallas that you personally presented. And I also remember that night we went down to the restaurant, we had dinner, and all of a sudden we were starstruck. Mr. David Allen himself walks by, sits in the table right next door to us. And then my dad, okay, should we talk with David? What should we say? You know, maybe he's preparing the speech for tomorrow. But no, we had some great casual conversation and just talked to GTD.
And I assume good Mexican food. Oh my God. You know,
very good Mexican food.
That's what I miss. It's one of the few things I miss in the States. Is good Mexican food.
Fully agree.
Really.
I know. And now I'm in Monterrey, Mexico here. So living more of that good Mexican culture, good Mexican food. And for me, I've always been a GTD fanboy. You know, I was showing earlier the note-taker wallet, right? David's own. I have my travel folders here, right? That's still the good old GTD tools. I have my Fidon in basket. But what I'm super excited to talk about today is the book, the new book, Team, Getting Things Done with Others. For me, it came at a perfect time in my career, and I think a perfect time in this world where we really need to understand how can we work better together. And I love this concept that you all have of healthy high performance. How can we have healthy productivity? And with this, I just wanted to turn it to you and tell me, how did this book came to be? When did you decide, hey, no, we have to put this out there for the world? And how did that happen? Was it in a coffee shop? Was it having dinner? Was it back of the napkin type of thing?
Ed can answer that better than me, probably. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure that I can answer it better than David, but I can certainly do it as well as David. So David and I occasionally will sit down and have a lunch and talk things over. I think it was probably in 2020. In fact, it was 2020, about 2 weeks before the pandemic hit. We were having lunch in Amsterdam and just kicking ideas around for new stuff that we could get up to. And one of the things was, hey, it feels like we've been training a lot of individuals for a lot of years. And I was at it at that point, I guess, for 10 or 11 years teaching individuals and, you know, having huge success with the methodology because the methodology works. But the people would go back into their teams and would struggle to be able to do what they were actually capable of because they were trying to cope with the stress and the chaos and the lack of structure that they faced in their organization. So we kicked the idea around and, it kind of internet speed. Once you get to work with the publishers, it only took us 4 years to get the thing finished and published.
Super. And well, now looking at it, let's say more on a case study situation, because I want to dive a little bit deeper into the book, give the people that are listening some idea of what to expect in the book. I want to put a case study situation on. Now, imagine that we're in a company of 400 people here in Monterrey, Mexico, in honor of David's taste for Mexican food. And it's a big multinational. You have a headquarters in a different part of the world. The general manager is a big GTDer, strong purpose, values, And the team is diverse, diverse background from different people all over the world. They're manufacturing different things. They also have a lot of different initiatives going on, a list of projects from all different types of departments. And we had 5 days to go spend with them. How would you divide up those days, and what would you do? How would you approach this, and using some of the concepts presented in teams?
Well, Ed and I, what we did was frame what were the principles of productivity that applied to the individuals. How do you apply that to a team? They're the same principles, but they're applied in very different contexts. So, first thing is, I would walk in and go, what's got the team's attention right now? What's not on cruise control for the team? And that's where we would do the capture process, which then you clarify, organize, reflect, and engage, to use those basic principles. But that's how we would start. And of course, the horizons of commitments, purpose, vision, goals, areas of accountability, responsibility, projects, and actions, those things are different conversations to have. Whether the team has had those or not, they might need to still have some of those conversations. Is something on purpose for us or not? Is something, what are our rules of engagement in terms of how we play? So these are all just questions. We wrote the book really as a manual to look across all the aspects of what creates healthy high performance. And many teams already have a lot of those in place. They just may not know what they are or how come they did that. And it may not be sustainable or repeatable, which is another case for healthy. If you just had 5 people leave off your team and 5 new people come on, do you know how to do that? Can you do that well? What'd you do before that worked? Can that be repeatable? So there are a lot of these conversations that could be had. It kind of depends on the situation and the team, because every team is very, very different. How big is it? How big is the project? Why is it a team? Those are such kind of unknown quantities. We just tried to create a manual that then teams could use. At least anecdotally, we don't have a lot of data yet in terms of how popular the book is, but we've had people say, I just gave everybody in my team this book. Now let's come together and see what rang our bell out of all this that we could improve. What are we doing well? What could we improve on? So that was kind of the reason for this, I think, and Ed has got a lot more miles in his tire than I do in terms of, working with senior teams who've been trained in the getting things done process, and then watched how that osmotically kind of affected their culture. And so Ed sort of challenged me and us to say, okay, can we make this a little more rigorous, a little more objective, a little more specific in terms of what these best practices are, so we don't have to wait for it to be osmotic for people who kind of get this methodology to spread it around their culture. How could we create more of a manual about that? Ed, did I say it well, or
You did. I'm loving, Luis, your case study, your parameters. It feels very 20th century, because I don't think you could get 5 days out of any team these days. But I would love to have it. I would love to have it. And so to what David said, we wouldn't have them do everything because they don't need everything. Ideally, we'd spend some time finding out what it is that they think is missing, using some sort of diagnostic to, using the book as a reference point, and then go through it. I think if you gave me 5 days, I would do a ton of healthy stuff to begin to integrate their work with things that they can do alongside of their work to stay healthy even while they're performing at a high level, right? So that's the core concept of the book. So if we were to do anything with those 5 days, we have to do it in a way that supports the main message of the book, which is you can perform at a high level. In fact, you will perform at a higher level if you look after yourself and the health of your team, instead of just trying to perform and perform and perform and perform until you fall over.
And what we did, Luis, in the book, and I think Ed framed this really appropriately, is like the mechanics of how a team works together. We're not about the big stuff. The big stuff, charisma, vision, collaboration, relationships, all that's great stuff. We didn't address that. We just addressed what happens if the mechanics of how a team tries to communicate and work together, manage agreements with each other. If that falls short, you're going to have trouble doing all that bigger stuff. And so we just tried to address, the best practices of the mechanics, which once those are handled, you kind of open up a whole lot of cool stuff that teams can do. But they're sort of blocked about that because meetings are late starting. They're not clarifying the purpose of the meeting. They're not clarifying conversations they have and identified next actions and accountabilities and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of the mechanics that are not rocket science unless you're building rockets, that a lot of teams are missing.
Oh, I agree.
So we tried to address that.
Yep. No, and it's so well addressed, and I think those are the intricacies that then give space, like Ed said, now we're just all day firefighting, that until we get these mechanics right, it's hard to create space to really think on the bigger items, and think about the purpose, and even do the exercise that I think you, David, and Ed mentioned in the book, of the Wall Street Journal success article. What would success look like if you had to publish a newspaper article on it? What would it say about what did the team accomplish in this next coming season or year? And I thought it was excellent. And I think one of the issues that we see a lot is I would say project creep, where you have such a big amount of projects and every day you're just adding on to the list. And sometimes it's dispersed amongst different departments, and maybe the leader of the team sometimes doesn't have that full picture. And you'll talk a little bit on the project list and be able to say, okay, what are the projects that we're going to focus on? What is the parking lot that we're going to put? And hey, once we finish these, then we'll move to those. What have you seen are some of these best practices? Is it consolidating everything into one list? Any thoughts on that, of how can we work better to see, hey, this is the whole thing for the team, which sometimes for a person it's easy, but for the team it might be in pieces here and there, and how to go about, I would say, prioritizing those?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. If you want your team to be able to perform, it can't live in overwhelm forever, right? And that's where a lot of teams live, and that's why almost all new initiatives are resisted, because the team has a sense we can't do everything we've already got. And you mentioned two things there. One is the team projects list, and the other is frankly chapter 12, where we wrote the longest chapter in the book, which is half of its original length, because we had so much to say about prioritization and the ability to say no. And if the team lead and the team lead specifically, and the team is not empowered to say no to external requests that don't relate to what's been identified as the team priorities, then you're almost definitely going to sink rather than swim in the amount of work that you have to do. So combining those two things, best practice is A, have a projects list for the team, and B, do some kind of regular review of that and pruning of it so that the team feels like it's actually working on the right things.
And the key element there is who owns the team. Who's accountable for the results that the team is there for. See, you're only a team if you have some sort of purpose. The only reason there's a team is there's something you're trying to accomplish, for which you need people around you or other folks. to make sure that happens. Who owns that? If nobody owns that, then good luck. Nothing's going to happen. They're just like floundering. If somebody owns it, they have to then decide, wait a minute, what's on purpose, what's not? And how often do we need to look at the details, at what level of granularity, and at what recursion do we need to reflect on, essentially, the commitments of the team, so that we can then pull the regard, get ourselves current, decide, oh, God, that just happened. This just changed. What do we need to now do? What are now our priorities? But somebody needs to lead that conversation. It doesn't have to be some big hierarchical leader. It just needs to be somebody in the team that takes control of what the purpose of the team is. It's kind of a big duh, but boy, it's a duh that's missing in a lot of places.
No, fully agree. And looking at accountability, because this is mentioned in the book. I love one of the parts where you break down how to have who's responsible for what. And just from my experience, what I've seen is if it's a specific project, it's easier to maybe assign that responsibility or who owns what. What we have difficult sometimes it's looking at workflows. When we have, for example, quality incident reviews or order fulfillment process where it has to go through so many hands. And pass through. Oh, now you have the ball. Oh no, now the quality department has the ball. Oh no, now operation has the ball. Oh no, now it's logistics. Oh no, now it's finance for invoicing and such. What do you see works best, when really the team doesn't win until, okay, you ship the product or you resolve this for the client? How can we...
Yeah, the first thing is, wait a minute, what's got the team's attention about this? What's not on cruise control about that? Is it finance? Is it quality control? Is it customer service? Where did something slip? Or where's something not optimal? That's the first place to go. You can't do this sort of generically overall. I mean, yeah, you could, but good luck. You need to go, wait a minute. What caused the itch here? We need to scratch. And so defining that's the first job. Wait a minute. What happened where? And why has that got our attention? And what needs to improve about any of that? So again, it's kind of a duh thing, but that is that's often missed because people sort of spread those accountabilities all over the place and don't go, wait a minute, what just happened? Who cares? What matters about any of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's two levels. Like the book was written because we, in this conversation we were having, we realized there was like this base level layer that we were handling very well, which was individual productivity and workflow. And there was the second level that we hadn't addressed yet, which was the team, right? So in the situation that you describe, there's a couple of different places that this can be going wrong, right? So it could be a matter of individual workflow, and the people who are in the process you described don't have control of their inboxes, so things keep getting lost as they're supposed to move through that chain, right? And that's a question of offering individual training for them to get control of their life, frankly. If the problem is, however, that the process is wrong, the process is overlong, it's requiring too many inputs, then that's something that happens at this top level where the process needs looking at and probably redesigning with, to David's point, some owner who people can go to when they think the process stinks and say we need to change the process.
This is great. No, I'm already thinking good ideas, and it goes back to David's first point, and what has our attention and the whole mind sweep, through the team and doing it collectively. I think it's putting people in the room and really together crowdsource what are the pain point areas of the workflow. This is,
and not just pain point, but opportunity areas. Hey, here's an idea. Here's a cool thing we might want to do. Here, whatever about that. So, Luis, it would help. Do you have any case studies yourself in terms of what you're dealing with it, or your teams, or whatever, what they're
Yeah,
dealing
I
with
think
right now?
these are some very specific ones. I think that the biggest one that we're seeing is that project list. No, that, for example, we have one that's the list of continuous improvement projects. Right, big into manufacturing. We have 87 projects for over 400 people. Then we have the list of the safety department, which is designing for safety, and we have a list of 15 there. Then we have the list of initiatives from headquarters that we have to do. Then we have our key performance objectives, and we have different projects that each one of the teams want to do.
You guys,
System
you
and
guys, you guys need a drink. Jeez.
some tequila down here in Mexico.
Oh my God. But how do you take a look at that whole inventory? Who does that? And who says, wait a minute, here's the biggest pain point, or here's the biggest opportunity point? If we
Exactly.
you can only focus on one thing at a time, frankly. Which one thing? That's a lot of what we tried to address was how do you distill down to what's the one thing that would make the biggest difference in terms of the team's sustainability, repeatability, stress, or just outcome.
I mean, I think, Luis, if you look at what we wrote about, the book is called Team, right? It's not called Organization. That might be another book, but at the moment, we decided we think there is still a lot of low-hanging fruit just to be handled at the level of the team. And we've, both of us, I don't know what we've got now, but let's say it's something like 70 years of consulting experience between us. And we've just seen so many organizational change things not work out terribly well because they're just too big, frankly. Whereas if you work at the level of the team, then you can have a bunch of people who look at each other around a room and make decisions really quick and make changes really quick. Right? So if, to your example, I would say, well, which teams matter most? Let's start there, and let's get action and momentum there, and then start looking to spread that dynamic.
Yeah, and say no to all the rest.
And that's one of the parts of the book that I love. And I think that the other thing that kind of hit home for me was thinking about all these teams as well, depending on at the level of the team that you see it, but looking at all these as inboxes, no? But if you have so many emails, how do you keep up? We have to centralize it and then prioritize through that list. And that's one of the key takeaways that I have as action item and a project for myself after reading the book. So I think
And
that
I refer to that now as channel creep. How many channels are you allowing into your ecosystem, personally and professionally? Slack, Evernote, Google Meets, Teams. Oh my God. How many things do you think you might need to look at, that you might need to consider, stuff you might need to do something about? That's what's changed. Is that input, how many channels of input, as well as the volume and speed of that input, because it's coming fast. While we're talking right now, by the way, Luis, it's mounting up. Ed, it's mounting up for you. It's mounting up for me as we speak, right? And so whatever's mounting up right now may change any one of us right now, our priorities for the evening or the afternoon, or Luis, I guess your morning. So yeah, no kidding. And that's why I think we tried to address, the first book of Getting Things Done was really targeted toward the high level, fast track professionals in the corporate business world. And, because they were starting to get bombarded with the tsunami of email and corporate change and so forth, and accountability driven down. But now that's just changed to now 95% of the professional world needs to understand this, needs to handle this, simply because of speed, volume, channel creep, and whatever of stuff that people may be relevant to what people are doing. That's new. That's a new thing. And so people better get good at this. They better get a lot faster at how they manage and deal with that, as opposed to just piling it up. Huh, the big stacks. Let me just pile this up over here. Let me just pile this up in my email. No. That you can't manage that. And of course, as Ed and I addressed, you can have you can be a football or soccer player, high performing, really, really good. But if you don't know how to work together as a team, you lose. So working together as a team, even though it requires or asks, high performing professionals in the team in terms of how they're managing what their stuff is, they still need to manage the mechanics of how do we work together. And that's, I think, what Ed and I addressed. I think we did pretty well. Ed, what do you think?
Well, I think your example is the channel creep thing is an interesting one, because again it goes back to this two-level model I was just talking about. At this level, we can teach people to handle their inboxes. At this level, we can decide which inboxes we need to look at. And so instead of having people become more efficient here, which is great, they need to do that. But up here, we can reduce the amount of places they need to look. Some teams that we've worked with have reduced the number of places to look by 75%.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So that's a lot less places to look before you get to work in the day.
Great. And maybe as we're in this subject of job creep, calendar management, especially for teams, and Ed, I think you've worked in, 5 different cultures and multilingual as well, and related a lot to reading your bio. And sometimes you have different time zones, right? Any standards on calendar management, on putting time for focus, for clearing inboxes for your team, and what would you tell your teams on how to approach this and receiving input from all different sides?
There's a whole book you should read about this, Louis.
Book 2 then, after team.
Ed, go ahead. Yeah, good luck.
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question, Luis. It's this case study, by the way, sounds very much like something that you might be living. So I'm not quite sure I understand. Is it that your calendar or the theoretical leader of this company is getting their calendar too full with stuff? Is everybody ending up with meetings that are being shoved in, double and triple booked, and all that kind of stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it sometimes feels you have to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes the day before just going through and deciding, oh no, from these 3 meetings, we have to go to this one. But maybe it goes back to standards, but I don't know if any best practices there that...
Yeah, well, I think a big chunk of that is resolved if you are actually doing a weekly review. So like that's maybe not even at the team level yet, although you can go to standards for sure about, what you're allowed to put in people's diaries, right? Is it going in with a clear purpose for the meeting? Is it going in with a clear desired outcome? And if not, everybody in the company should have the freedom to say no to a meeting that they don't know the purpose or desired outcome of. That would, again, slow down a lot of meetings. But my experience is that if I'm doing a weekly review weekly, I am usually getting back, I'm going to say at least 6 hours in the following week, because I'm looking at things that I said yes to 3 weeks or 3 months ago, and realizing, hey, I don't need to go to that, but I can get somebody else to go to that. Or, of these 3 meetings that are currently showing here, these 2, can either be just said no to, or I can pass that on to somebody else because they're better briefed about that anyways. Yeah.
And come on, Luis. A lot of meetings are there because people were unclear about their communications to begin with. Who's doing what? Who's accountable for what? Is that yours? Is this mine? Oh, this wasn't clear. Let's meet. Oh my God. How many meetings then show up simply because people are unclear about who's supposed to be doing what, about what? What's the what that they're supposed to be doing about, and who's got the ball on managing the what, and so crappy meetings create crappy emails that create crappy meetings that create crappy emails. It's a black hole. It just all spirals down, until somebody goes, wait a minute, this is mine. Here's what we need to do. Here's who's handling that. Here's why we need to meet. And meetings are great. They get a lot of stuff done. You need meetings, in order to be able to get stuff done as a team. But boy, they better be clear about what's the purpose of the meeting, what are the roles people are supposed to be playing in that meeting, and not ending the meeting without going, so what did we just decide? What's the next step on any of this? Who's got it? So those are just, again, the mechanics that Ed and I tried to address in the book, So if those are unclear, forget it. You're in a sinkhole.
Oh, this is great. This is excellent feedback. And one of the great takeaways, another one for me, was the definition of done. And I've personally completely changed it and really started investing more time on clarifying my definition of done. Because what I see is that sometimes one thinks that, oh, that was so clear. Look, I told them I need this spreadsheet, I need this info, I need that here, that there. And then after reading the book, I was like, hey, but it's communications 101, right? But it happens that then I ask them, oh, so what's the first step you're going to do once I send you this data? And then people were like, no, I don't know. Let's start over. Okay, so you wanted me to do this? And how to clarify this definition of done, I don't know. It was just a big takeaway from the book. And I was also wondering, are there any tools that you see that have helped? I've seen a lot of people start using Loom or a quick way to screen share and record themselves walking people through, hey, this is what I want you to do. This is how you do it. And then keep that for reference. Any best practice?
Yeah, no, Louis, there's a very simple tool. It's called your brain. I'm sorry. This requires, it's a muscle most people aren't used to using. It's called think. What does done mean? I get to, I can't believe how many projects wind up with these little dribbling things that are still left undone about that project. And so it's still on people's minds. It's still a nagging or nigging at them, because they didn't decide, wait a minute, is this done or not? What does done really mean? And so you're right. It's a very powerful question, and one people are not, frankly, used to thinking about.
And it's interesting. I love the idea of some AI that listens to the conversation and then spits out for you, some perfect description of done that you both agree to. That might come, but for now, the big challenge, I've seen this like literally hundreds of times, is that the leader feels that they've been clear. They feel that they've been so clear that they don't really even need to track it, right? And they don't need to confirm what was agreed, but they do. And this is why in the chapter on leadership, we were so clear that the leaders need to stop doing stuff that other people can do, because they have a really, really big job. And their big job is to decide who's going to do what and then track that to completion. And that's a full-time job.
And it's so subtle. Look, I broke a tooth right in the front. So I have a body project called Fix Teeth, right? That's not going to be done until that's all finished, meaning it's all done. I'm gone to the dentist next week. He's going to do whatever he does, and whatever. But I still need to make sure that still works. So I can't check that off until I go, teeth done. Now that's, interestingly, very few people, I think, give themselves that either job or whatever it is that you call that, to define really done. That's done when X is true. And so, wow, that's a great thing to train your kids or anybody to think about. Yeah.
I'd love it if the project included getting an eye patch and a peg leg. It would that would improve your street cred no end.
Yeah.
And talking now on AI, and you brought it up, Ed. I have to. You all wrote a little bit about this and teaming with others and AI. So you put it there on the book. How do you see teams and productivity changing in the next 15 years?
Wow. I mean, we're all kind of staring down the barrel of, a massive question mark about AI. What I notice at the moment is that there's not a ton of people are seriously using it, right? It feels to me like most people have read the stories about the lawyer who got slapped down by the judge for having his trial summaries, prepared by AI, and it turned out there was a lot of fictitious cases. I mean, there's enough of the hallucination stuff in the water that most people are like, yeah, I think I'll wait until I've got a clear use case for this. So it's very difficult to say where it's going to go. And if you have, 9 people in a room and everybody's using a different AI, I don't know where that gets you, right? So they're really, really big questions, and we don't have an answer other than at the moment I think AI is probably at the level of a decent, if slightly faulty, intern for you, and a decent faulty intern needs really, really clear direction. So you still have to think and decide and give direction to AI in order for it to be able to help you.
Yeah, you need to curate the stuff. Yeah, but I've already found, somebody asked me to write a foreword to the book. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, how do I respond to somebody who asked me to this thing? And they gave me an absolutely elegant, so decision support is what's already there. It's great. It's not going to decide what to buy for your mom's birthday, but it'll give you a lot of cool ideas. What should I buy for mom's birthday? She's X years old. And it will give you some really cool stuff. So, so you can't deny that. And that's going to be in spades coming better and better and quicker and quicker and quicker to Ed's point, but not to the point of making the decision. You still have to curate. It can give me a lot of ideas about mom's birthday, but I still have to decide out of all what they just gave me, which one is cool and whatever, and how I'm going to do. But it's cool stuff. I use it daily, simply for that kind of thing. So, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I don't know where it's going to go. I think the jury's still out, to Ed's point, about, what does all that mean? It's not going to make much difference yet in terms of people's jobs, though some it is. Because some, that sort of compilation of text, compilation of stuff, coming up with suggested responses, etc., about all that, it's doing that extremely well. So I don't know how much that's going to affect the workforce. I guess we'll see.
And any guidance on how you think about testing new tech, David and Ed? I don't know, new tech databases,
Don't if you're already stressed out, don't bother. Oh my God, new tech. It's all the new and the new. Well, the new didn't work so well. Let's get the new. That maybe it works better. Forget it. They're just going to add more stress to your life to try to figure out how to use them.
I mean, personally, I agree 100%. I think I love the Amish approach to this stuff, which is how does this help us to achieve our purpose? How does this thing help us? Does it help us, or does it prevent us from achieving what we think to be most valuable, which is, in their case, community, some kind of a spiritual life. And those kinds of things. And so they decided against a lot of technologies that they thought, well, that doesn't help us. Most notably, I think, automobiles, but there have been other things. it's not a crazy way to decide. You decide based on what are your values, what is your purpose, and does this new thing help me get there? And maybe it helps me get there, but it's costing me so much in terms of my attention and relations that I decide I don't want to use it.
Well, come on, guys. I got onto email in 1983 with EasyLink, I think. I had my first IBM computer and a Radio Shack Model 100 that I could then carry with me portably. I went, wow, that allows me to do my work no matter where I go. And I was traveling a lot that time. So I went, wow, how cool is that? So yeah, back to Ed's point, it's like, well, what's the purpose? Does this help in that process in terms of what we're doing? And I think for many people right now, that does. Wow, you can do stuff all over the place, no matter when. But as soon as you had a phone you could carry with you, you suddenly increase 24/7 the amount of work that you might actually need to assess, simply because of the technology and its ability to be able to connect you, 24/7, no matter where. And so you just have to decide, if you know what you're doing, it's a great time to be alive. If you don't, you're toast.
That is, yeah, that's very profound. And I think it was my aha moment, David, with GTD. I was telling the story to my dad. He's a big GTDer as well. And I did an internship in Peoria, Illinois. This was 2005. And me and my best friend just read your book, and we were discussing, all our systems, and we got Lotus Notes here, or should we put it in Outlook? And I remember some of the coffee conversations were, okay, we have the travel checklist. Should it go under my travel notebook, or should it go under my checklist notebook? So that level of granularity. And then it wasn't until I think your GTD roadmap seminar and making it all work that it was like, wow, no, but the higher game in this is that. What are those things that you really want to get done? And then put your energy to get that stuff done, right? Instead of just systematizing and just cranking widgets all day, it's what are those widgets that you truly want to crank that will give you that joy, that fulfillment in life, no? And no.
By the way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with widget cranking. People play chess, people play solitaire, people do all kinds of stuff. It's like, why not? You want to sort of dork around with tools about that kind of stuff? Sure, fabulous. Nothing absolutely wrong with that. What you don't want it to do is get in the way of what you want to get done.
No. And that leads me maybe to switch the subject a little bit on. I'm finishing my first book. It's a book on taste. And for me, taste is the sum of all these things that you like and you dislike, right? And this gives you your unique taste profile, right? And David, you've been tasting things for several years. You moved from the U.S. to Amsterdam, and Ed, like we talked about, multilingual, 5 different cultures. Lived through Europe and do a lot of work in Europe, and a big part of the success in GTD in Europe, I think it's from your lead and what you've done. How do y'all explore your taste, develop your taste, and how do you define taste?
Wow.
Good question.
Well, I think I see a few different models in operation. One is, you get out there and you taste a lot of stuff, and you're open to a lot of different taste experiences. Be it, I'm assuming your book is not just about gustatory taste, but also theatrical taste and cultural taste and painting taste. I think you get people who have a very strong preference for things, but they haven't tried a lot, and that's okay. They have a taste. I'm not sure I trust their taste. I'd rather be talking to the person who's tried a ton of stuff over the course of their lifetime, at least enough to be able to know, 50-year-old eggs in Iceland are not something that I like. that is a taste sensation. Apparently, the locals like it, but I'm not so sure that's for me. That's. But you need reference points. I think you need a wide range of reference points to be able to say, this is the range that I prefer things in, or this is the thing that I prefer most. I don't know. That's off the top of my head. Not sure if that's any use.
Fantastic. And
I have
don't know
no
from
answer,
you-
Luis. I have no answer.
And but
Just
for
things,
example,
things I
the-
like, things I don't like.
yeah, and the move to Amsterdam,
that's
for example,
simple.
was it something that was just
Well,
in a Sunday
that was our
maybe
that
list?
was our taste. That was our taste in the city, our taste in the culture, our taste in the universality, the globality of it, and there were a lot of combinations of things that I'd say, yeah, kind of a perfect storm of a lot of our tastes. Yeah.
Oh, great. And well, now quick lightning round of questions here. We'll go ahead with a vacation. So favorite vacation that comes to mind?
For
I'd like to
me,
do Iceland.
sorry, the Iceland for you, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, canoe trip with my family.
Oof, nice. And favorite tech right now?
I like Chat GPT. I'm enjoying it. It's fun.
I'm still an analog kind of guy. I love the thing. David's infected me many years ago, and I'm still using it.
I agree. And ChatGPT for David. And favorite music band or singer?
Oh, come on. Springsteen. Come on, you can't beat the boss. He's the best.
I agree.
Well, I have actually it's a friend of the boss who's a friend of mine, Elliot Murphy, fantastic guy. He was launched at the same time as Bruce back in the 70s. Launched big in America and around the world, and was very successful in France where he moved. And he produces an album about once a year, and there's a hit on every album, and he's never made it big, but he's fantastic.
That's great. And what would be some advice you would give your 10-year younger self?
Pay attention to your intuition. The still small voice inside of you that loves you, cares about you, doesn't give a shit about what you do, and no judgment, but it's just there whenever you want it. And so quiet your world down enough to pay attention to that voice.
Yeah, mine is kind of in the similar vein. I would say it slightly differently. Do a good day's work, get a good night's sleep, have some fun, don't worry, and repeat.
Right. Oh, this has been an honor. It's been fantastic. Really, David, Ed, team, getting things done with other, really, what a fantastic book. I'm so grateful that y'all put this out there and really to help really make the change that we need in the world and work better together in teams. Anything else you want to share with the audience today?
No, it's been great fun. I mean, I
Yeah.
love your enthusiasm, Luis, and I'm glad you enjoyed the book.
Yes, thank you.
And
You're safe.
anything in terms.
Yeah, all good. And enjoy the rest of your lives,
I agree. And the book available, I know, in all major bookstores. Anything in terms of contacting people?
We like to support our local bookstores. So
Great.
they're growing up in popularity again, which is great. Just your local bookstores, go order it or get it from them, because they're creating a culture, which is, I think, very much needed in our world right now, which is just collaboration and communication and hanging out with folks, that you like and that have similar interests. Yeah.
Is the book out in Mexico in Spanish yet?
In Spanish, I am going to go find it. I'll email you. Now, gotta go check the bookstore out.
I don't think so yet. Ed. But
We'll make it happen.
It's coming.
Let me know. Let me
I'm
know
sure.
how I can help.
Yeah. Thanks.
And
Thanks, Luis. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Great stuff.
Have a great rest of the day.
Take
Bye,
care.
You
David.
too.
Bye, Ed.
Ciao.
Ciao.
That wraps up this week's episode of the Taste Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching or listening, you can find all the links and resources we mentioned in the video description or show notes, depending on your platform. If you're tuning in on a podcast platform, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps others discover the show. For our YouTube viewers, feel free to drop a comment below with any questions, insights, or thoughts about the episode. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this episode, check out this related episode right here. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.